Nearly all of your engagements within Fortnite are going to be close range shotgun build battles, so it's important to know how to deal with everything in those situations, and I'll be going over a lot of that in today's video. However, before we get into the video, I just have a quick little message from today's sponsor. ProGuides is honestly one of the best websites you guys can go to improve. I know if you're watching my videos, you definitely want to up your game. Now, what I like so much about ProGuides is the fact that they have courses made from pros that'll give you tips and tricks for whatever level of play you are on. Now, what I also love about them is they have a ton of other features on their website, as you guys can see here. And as well, they just released an iOS and Android app, so make sure to go check them out below. I'll have my link down in the description, and go definitely check them out and see what they have to offer. For the most part, you should never be 50-50 engagements, as like the name suggests, it's kind of just a throw up in the air of who's going to win. Now, sometimes you're going to have to, say early game when you have no mats. One of the things though you should never do is being predictable. And a lot of the times, one of the most predictable things that I see is players jumping. Now, one of the things about when a player jumps is you know exactly where they're going to be, because the way they jump, their movement is always going to be the same. They have to come back down to the ground, so it's going to be the easiest to shoot them. So in turn, doing something a little bit different like spam crouching is a lot better, because for the most part you can kind of control how fast you crouch. And another great thing about this is you can still ADS, and if your opponent is shooting at you, it's going to be a lot harder for them to hit you in the head, as it's going to be unpredictable. As you can see, it's kind of hard to track them up and down and make sure you're hitting as much headshots as possible. As well, when you're doing jump shots and such, it doesn't really matter with a shotgun, but with an SMG, you can't ADS when you're in the air. So this is another reason why you should not be jumping as frequently. That doesn't mean you can't implement some jumps to throw off your opponents, but overall, spam jumping as much as possible really is not the way to go. Of course, it's stupid to hop into somebody's 1x1, but it's important that if you do get in there, and make sure you have some control over the walls, and of course having control over as much as possible inside of a 1x1 is very important for close range shots, because you're going to be able to dictate the fight. So if there's no cone or a ramp inside of here, you of course want to claim that, because this will allow you to go for edits, and especially one that I see a lot, which is allows your opponent to phase through the ramp. Now what this will happen is you'll edit through and you can still shoot them through the ramp. And this one is really great, but at the same time, if they're ADS'd on you, they're still going to be able to shoot through the ramp back at you. So another thing that I like to do is hop out of the 1x1 completely. Especially if you own the top, you can always edit out and just take height. Otherwise, another one that I like to do sometimes will take people by surprise is I'll edit out the side, then quickly switch the edits around, and they're pretty much defenseless, especially if they don't own anything inside the 1x1. So kind of building off regaining control and holding control over those edits in those close range situations. One way that I like to retake walls and have control over the whole situation, which of course is very important, is I like to place on a ramp, because this allows you full vision when you edit it. And if they do start to spray out your ramp, you can easily drop down and just quickly pump them. And if not, and they might just edit a window or something just to peek you and then re-edit it away, you can easily steal the wall like this. One shot the wall and immediately replace it, since the wood is not completely broken. Now at this point, you can add it in, and one thing that I sometimes like to do, depending on how the opponent is, if they have their pickaxe out or their SMG or AR, something that's not going to do a lot of burst damage like a shotgun, I like to place down a cone, because this will stop your opponent from being able to immediately place down a ramp, and you can usually tank like a little bit of SMG damage. Then you can easily re-edit the wall and then start taking shots where you think it is more appropriate and where you're going to have the upper hand. Now, a lot of the time in those close engagements, when you want to create just a little bit of space between you and your opponent, you're obviously going to place on a wall or a ramp or something. And what's great about this is the fact that a lot of times they'll just spray you with an SMG or an AR, which will then break your wall, and you can actually sneak a little shot off in between the wall breaking and you replacing it. I'll show you what that looks like here. And as you can see, if you're fast enough, you can get a shot off, which will hit them. And a lot of times that'll relieve a little bit of pressure on you and allow you to go out the back or to the side or do whatever you would really like. So this right here is probably one of the worst situations to be in with an enemy. You're trapped in a box, and by the time you make an edit, you're probably either going to get pumped or SMG'd so low, and editing is just going to send you in the same direction as your opponent. So at this point, a lot of times it's those 50-50 shots, and whoever hits the biggest pump or the most SMG. Now, this is a situation that can be avoided though, and there's a couple different ways that it can't always be, but for the most part, making sure you're not doing dumb plays like trying to drill into an enemy's box from the above or from the side and just trying to jump in like a psycho, making sure you're not landing on people up on a height where all you can really do is get boxed in with them, especially when storm starts to enclose into the box. You're really putting yourself in just a terrible situation. So making sure that you're doing your best not to get into these terrible situations, because this is exactly where you do not want to be. But if you do, make sure you're hitting the best pump shot as you can, making sure you're ADSing to close in where your shell is going to go, and then making sure you're immediately following up, because you can't always rely on your pump to one-shot your opponent. Lastly, I do want to say the best way to practice your close encounter engagements are most definitely playing Turtle Wars or Zone Wars in creative mode, as that'll get you a lot of games in and get that really good fast-paced practice in, which I think is very beneficial for real games. However, that is going to be the end of the video, so I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know what you thought down below, and if you did enjoy, make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys all in the next one.